420 seconds. That's how long you have to impress the experts from the Royal Society of Chemistry of the value of your new technology idea. In your pitch, you have 420 seconds only to show the value, to show the impact, and to show the purpose of your new idea. Not only do you have to think about that VIP, but another VIP too. Your team. The variety, the imagination, and the passion of your team. When you're pitching your new idea, you need to think about how you're going to tell that story. You want them to really understand your story, but you also want them to fall in love with the storyteller. That's you and your team. Showing that passion, showing that imagination, and showing the value of your idea. Now, the first thing to think about is your idea a credible one? If it is credible, it means it's got some substance. It's been worked through and thought through. It's got strong content. You have to be able to show the credibility of your idea. The other thing we need to think about is not only is it credible, but is it incredible? What else can you add to just talking about the credibility of the subject to make it really, really come to life? And this is what will start to differentiate your idea from other people. Sure, let's look at the core content of the technology. How does it work? How's it been evolved? Where are you? But also, let's bring it to life with the passion of your ability to tell your story. Think about this idea for a moment. We've got two things to compare. One is the rose and one is the cabbage. Now, the rose looks amazing. It's wonderful. It smells beautiful. The cabbage maybe not so attractive. Maybe it doesn't even smell quite so good. But at the end of the day, the rose, it doesn't make such good soup. The cabbage is what makes great soup. Now think about that for a moment. Your talk, your pitch has to have the substance of the cabbage and the beauty of the rose. We want it to look amazing, to sound amazing, but we need it to have some really good, strong core content. Now, in terms of how people will receive your pitch, they will have a sense of it from their heart. They'll feel something. It'll be something, yes, I feel in my heart, I really like this idea, I'm connected to this idea. So we're thinking, yeah, how can we appeal by the way we move, by the way we sound, by the way we structure our stories to get people to feel something in their heart about it? I'm starting to fall in love with this. I'm starting to fall in love with this idea. I'm starting to fall in love with these people who are telling me this idea. I feel like I'm connected to it. Then we have the other kind of sense, which is the logical sense. So as you're telling your story, as you're talking about your idea, do we understand it logically? Does it make sense? Is there evidence? Can you show us how it all works? So now I feel it with my heart and I feel it with my head. And then finally, there's this overall kind of credibility of what we're doing. Do I feel that overall, when it's all packaged together, that you are the team, that you are the people that we want to invest money in? It's a panel of experts, okay? They're going to offer you up money and they're going to invest that money in you if they feel it in their heart, in their head, and with the credibility. Okay, so let's think for a moment about you're up on stage, you're about to give your pitch, you're a team. So I expect more than one of you to bring your idea to life. Okay, I want you to think about this for a moment. You are your authentic self, telling your story clearly and dynamically. But let's add two elements to this. Let's first of all think about the pilot flying the plane. Now, the pilot understands how everything works. The pilot understands the instrumentation, understands how things operate. You also need to understand everything about what you're talking about. If it's a technology, you need to really, really understand it. You can't talk about things you don't understand. Okay, so the first thing is to be really secure like the pilot. Go through it and practice and be very, very clear that you know what you're talking about. That is your credibility. But let's also think about this idea of the pilot for a moment. When the pilot comes on a commercial airline before the aeroplane takes off, how does the pilot make you feel? The way that he or she talks fills you with confidence. Okay? If they rush, you would be nervous. If they were umming and erring, you would be nervous. If they didn't know what they were going to say, you would be nervous. But let's think about your talk. Talk confidently, talk clearly, talk in a way that really gets people to think this person knows what they are talking about. I feel like I am in good hands. I feel it in my heart, I feel it in my head, and I really get a sense that this person really has control, like the pilot. So you kind of think, as you're talking, can I be like the pilot? But then also, we need to have something extra, something incredible to add. So I want you to think for the moment about the rebel, okay? About the person or the archetype that really is a risk taker, is really passionate about what they do, is somebody that wants to tell you that they can change the world in some way. So think of yourself as the rebel as well, the disruptor, somebody who's going to really open people's minds to new possibility. You might be a rebel like a Gandhi-style rebel where you are quietly and determinedly saying how you think the new world can be. Or you might be more of a kind of Martin Luther King-style presenter where you really are passionately talking about change and difference. Okay? So you are going to present clearly, passionately, directly to the audience, but you're also going to think, how can I be like the pilot? And how can I be like the rebel? So we think about presenting as a type of performance. When you're standing up in front of the audience, the two tools that you have beyond your slides or whatever you're going to use in terms of content, you've got your voice and your body. So you're like an actor. All right. Now, in terms of the voice, if we think about the pilot and the rebel, they give us some clues. We're calm, we're controlled, we are clear in everything we do. The voice is very much in control. And rather like carrying on with the pilot idea, the sounds are going to come up and out and land very clearly with the audience. Up and out and land. But at the same time, we have the energy of the rebel in our voice, where we are now in control, where we are very, very definite and clear and absolute about what we think, because this will make a difference. Now, if you think of the voice as being maybe often fairly monotone, or black and white, monochrome and monotone, what you need to do is you need to add a little bit of colour to your voice. Imagine turning the dial up. So we see nice kind of sense, or we hear a nice kind of sense of the colour and texture of your voice. You've got good tempo, good clarity, you're in control, things land, and now you authentically add colour to your voice. Loud enough? Clear enough? Very good. Now we think about the body. Okay? You might be slightly nervous. You need to make sure that you are breathing, because obviously it's going to have a big impact on your ability to be in control of your body. Set yourself nicely in the space. Own that space, okay? You might not want to walk about too much, but you don't want to hide behind a lectern either. You want to be able to step forward, okay, and own that space with a center and a core to your body. So as you're speaking and gesticulating, you're very, very much in control from the core. Don't walk about too much. Don't get into that situation where you're turning to look at your slides. Make sure that you are talking to the whole audience, not just to the panel. Feel the room as you move around and your sense of yourself being very, very present in that space. Okay? Now, it's very likely for this particular pitch that you're going to be working in a team, that 2 or 3 of you will actually be presenting. Now, let's make it like a kind of a relay race where you talk about what you are particularly interested in and what you know, and pass it on very neatly and quickly to the next person. It might be a slide that moves forward, or it might be an element within how you're trying to explain the idea that somebody else then steps forward and takes over. So think about how you're going to set yourselves up in the room, have a look at the space, rehearse it, and think, how am I going to move from one person to the next person? Okay, you don't have to spend a lot of time saying, hello, my name is Jaideep, I'm now going to be talking about this type of technology, or I'm Kathy, it's so lovely, well done Ben, you did such a great job. You don't need to do all those things. What you need to do is step forward and take control and be totally credible and in control. Okay, imagine those 2 pilots and the co-pilots. We're not saying, and now here we are, we're going to hear from the co-pilot who's just had a lovely breakfast and a nice cup of tea and they're feeling, we don't need that. Okay, we just need to move professionally forward to the next member of the team. Now, how are you going to tell your story? The first thing is, are you going to be using slides, PowerPoint slides? The chances are that you probably are, okay? But you don't have to. Just imagine for a moment that you are able to tell your story without any slides, by demonstration or just by the power of your ability to bring your idea to life. So I recommend you probably do use slides, but don't feel you have to. If you are thinking about being incredible, you can be incredible by taking everything away and just the power of what you are doing. It will be very memorable if you can pull it off. Okay, so let's think about not just defaulting to always using slides in our pitch, but also about the power of our authentic story. Okay, now, whether or not you use slides, we need to think about what are the key components of the content of your pitch. So I'm going to offer up 7 key questions that I think you should cover, okay, in as much as you ask the question and then you answer it. Okay, so the first one, the first element of this is, what is the big idea? Straight out, okay, what is it? What is your emerging technology? Straight out there, what's the big idea? Don't mess around. Don't go all over the place trying to explain too many things. Just say absolutely, what is the big idea? That is the first step. The second question I think you should ask is, who is it for and why? What is the intention of the use of this technology? Who is it intended for and why? So we understand the big idea, and now who's this idea for and why? The next question we need to think about is, who else is doing this? Who else is the competition? So we've got the big idea, who's it for, and who else is currently doing this? Now, in the core of your talk, the most important thing is what is special or magic about your idea. That is going to be very, very memorable. Something really special. So yes, we've established what it is, we've established who it's for, we've established who else is doing it, but now your idea, what is super, super unique about what you're doing that makes it really, really special. Having talked about that, we do need to talk to the business model and how you think this idea can be commercialized. We need to discuss some elements of some of the financial aspects of the development of this idea. Number 6 is, who is the team? Remember the idea of credibility. We need to establish who you guys are and what credibility you have to bring this idea to the market. Okay, and then finally, what's going to happen next? So if you imagine you have your start, your opening, you have an ending, and you're going to cover essentially these 7 questions. Okay. Now you don't have to put the questions up on the slides. You're just going to cover these topics as you move through describing what your idea is in these 420 seconds. Now, I want to add another thought for you. As you kind of break down how you're going to bring this to life, I want you to think about the or the re of your idea. Now, what do I mean by that? The first is the E and R on the end of words that absolutely describe why your idea is so special. Okay, why the business model is so good, why the commercial possibility is so good, and why the technology itself is so valuable. So I'm talking about, is your idea something better? Is it cheaper? Is it faster? Is it cleaner? Is it leaner? Is it meaner? What is your of your idea? And if we reverse those letters and put them onto the front of a word, maybe we also need to articulate what we are doing in terms of reimagining, revisiting, replacing. Maybe we're re-engineering. Maybe it's an idea that has become reborn, or maybe it's a total revolution. Okay, so we're really starting to add something, not just asking questions, but add something special about our ideas. Okay, so let's look at these slides a little bit, or these ideas a little bit more. The first one is, what is the idea? Be absolutely clear on what the idea is. Make it clear. Now, for this particular pitch, you have a panel of experts, okay? So you don't have to be too basic in your understanding of the technology or explanation of the technology. But also, let's not make it too complex. The pitch at the moment is giving enough information, enough idea of what it is that you are trying to do to get us to understand. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, okay? You need to put the picture together as quickly as possible so that we can see what it is you're talking about, okay? So once you're very, very clear about what it is and what does it do, maybe you can add in your or your re. Why is it better? What is it that is the revolution, the disruption that you are causing? Okay, number 2 is, who is it for? Who's it aimed at? Okay, is it aimed at a particular group of individuals geographically? Is it a particular market or a particular condition? Okay, so who is it for? Are you working with particular institutions? Is it a business-to-business model that you're looking ultimately to develop? Is it a commercial model of a particular kind when you go straight to customers? How is the technology being used and who is it for? And add into that, why now? Why are you doing something now that no one else is doing? Okay. Question number 3 is, who else is doing it? So we're going to be talking about the competition, okay? Unless it is absolutely revolutionary and no one else has ever thought of this technology in any way, shape or form, somebody else is doing something similar somewhere, okay? So you need to let us know what the competition is and why you are better some way than them, okay? What is your difference? And at this stage, it's probably really important to talk about the traction of your idea. How far down the road are you? Okay, where's the competition? Where are you? Are you developing a prototype? Is it ready? Where are you in terms of the research and development? Show us the cycle. What kind of interest have you had in your idea in terms of the competition? Okay, now we're back to this idea of what's special about your idea. What is the magic? Now is the time, halfway through your talk, to reiterate memorably what is unique about your idea. Then we come on to the business model. Now this is a difficult part of the talk because the idea here is the commercialization of your technology. Okay. Now you may not be ready yet to understand ultimately how the business model is going to work. But first of all, I think it's really important that you explain to us whether or not you are a startup okay, whether you are a business that is going to actually uniquely be developing this particular technology and that is the route you're going to go down, or whether you're maybe looking at a licensing model that you're going to develop the technology, you're going to license it either privately or through some type of institution. Let us know what you think the business model might be. Either way, it's really important that we understand who the ultimate users of this technology are, who are the customers, and how you are going to reach them. It's also really important to understand the scalability of this technology in terms of its commercial potential. So where is it going to be developed? Who is it going to be developed for? And is it scalable? Will it ultimately become a business of scale? Okay. So we're nearly there. The penultimate of our slides, financial information, I think is really, really important. In fact, I think you probably add this into the business model. Now at this stage, remember the jigsaw piece does not have to be complete. You may not be ready yet to talk about all of the financial information. One of the easiest ways to think about it is think about the particular market that you are looking towards. Okay, think about the size of that market and then think, what could your potential penetration into that market be? So if you are thinking about, for example, a mobile phone kind of technology, you think, well, the mobile phone market in the UK is huge. It's worth X billions of pounds. We've got a particular entry point into this market. We think we might be able to get 0.5 or 1% of this market. And it might happen in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years. And you might show some type of growth. But if you do that, you're going to need to tell us what your assumptions are with this. So in terms of the money, I think you look at the value of the potential market you're looking at and how you think you could enter into that market, whether it's as a startup or using a licensing model. I honestly wouldn't be too worried about the financials at this stage, but I do think it's important that you give us at least a sense of the scale in terms of the business. Okay, so ultimately you're going to have some kind of revenue model. You're going to need to explain how you get to those customers, what sort of money is involved, and where you sit in terms of the percentage of the overall market. It's called a kind of top-down model, and I think you keep it very, very simple at this stage. If you want to project forward, you can go 1, 3, and 5 years, but I think if the stage you're probably at, I think just give an overall sense of scale. Okay, who's the team? Show off. If you've got a great team, tell us why you are so great. Remember, you need to be incredible. Okay, and then finally, what's next? Where are you? Where have you come from? And what is going to happen next? And a key thing here is if you've got the investment, here, the £10,000 investment, how would you use it? How would it move you forward? Okay, so really give us a sense of that. So we get the whole arc of the journey. And you're doing it, yes. You're doing it as the pilot, you're doing it as the rebel, you're doing it as yourself. Okay, it's very, very clear. So let me give you a kind of simple example of a few slides. So this is from a pitch that was done for a company called OptiOx, and they were looking at some bioleather production, synthetic bioleather production. Okay, so the first slide they used gave us the big picture of how much leather is consumed per year. So good picture, it's got a good energy. I kind of know straight away what they're talking about. The next slide that they use shows the whole market. It's the market forecast, $300 billion leather market. And it shows where bio-leather, synthetic bio-leather can actually go within that market. And in this particular slide, they're looking at potential 13% of market. Not for this company, not for this particular one, but for the overall market. But it's very clear what the scale of market is, and they're going to be looking at 2% of this market. So we're looking at now, how can this possibly work? Now, what I like about the next slide that they use is it does show the journey of the development of this particular synthetic leather companies that have been working on different ideas. It shows the strengths and weaknesses, it shows how long it's been going, and it shows where they are in this particular journey. And you imagine they're talking to this slide and really bringing to life what it is that they can do better than other people. Okay. The next slide they used will talk about some of the current barriers to success within the bio-leather industry. Okay, we'll talk about some of the things that have gone well, some of the things that haven't gone well. There's a bit of science in here, and the key science now will come in the magic of their particular idea, their approach. Okay, and they show uniquely in this slide what they can do that no one else can do. This is the revolution that they are bringing into this particular market. Looking at this slide, it's very clear, it's nicely designed, it's not cluttered, and it's credible, but the way that the presenters will bring it to life will be incredible. Okay. And then there's a little bit of the finance and understanding the value chain, where they're going to sit within this particular commercial environment, how their business plan works. This particular business plan looks at a licensing model. So they're going to develop the technology and they themselves are then going to license it to other organizations. Okay. And here's the team. You can see we've got 5 PhDs, we've got experts in business. They're really saying this is a very, very serious team, well put together, well thought through. They're dynamic. They will show that dynamism while they're presenting, and they will show what the quality of this team is. Credible and incredible. Okay. And then finally, I just got a nice ending here. They say the future is OptiOx. They put the challenge out there and said, if you want to use leather, this is a technology, back us and we will be the future. That's what's happening next. Okay. Now, very first thing I said to you was 420 seconds. That is the core of your talk, of your presentation. But there is a plus to this, because the chances are, having gone through these slides, having gone through this talk, you will then get asked some questions. Now is the time to bring other things to life. And if we look at this slide, we can see the variety of different types of questions that we might be asked. It might be questions about the market and the assumptions we make about the commercial possibility of this. You might really like to think, what have I missed in the talk that I might get asked in the questions? Now is the time for you really to show how amazing you guys are. You will be asked about the traction and where you are on the journey. More questions maybe about the team, definitely about the competition. Why are you able, do you think you can beat these guys? Explain what you've got. You may well get asked more information about the financials. I think at this stage, be very clear, don't make things up. If you've got the information to hand, fine. If you don't, let's just be absolutely honest and clear that we're still developing our understanding of the market. One thing you almost certainly will be asked is about intellectual property. Where are you in terms of the ownership of this idea? Who are you working with? Who has got their elements of the stakes within this idea? To be very clear about who is involved. One question that you almost certainly will be asked, if you haven't already answered it, is the use of funds. If you get this money, how will you use it? Think about that. If you haven't done it in the talk, then think about answering it as a question. Okay, you may get more questions about the business model and how you approach the customers. Hopefully you'll be able to answer that, and there may be some elements of legal structure of the company as well. If you're answering the questions, listen very clearly to the question, build a little visual frame for yourself, and then think, what is it I can populate this frame with to give the clearest answer that I possibly can? Okay, and I think no more than 45 seconds to a minute to answer any question. Okay, now we've been rather structured and we've been rather credible. We've answered the core questions, we've brought it to life. Now we may start to think about some other techniques that could get us to stand out even more. Holding on to our key frames, we could think about some key storytelling techniques. Now, classic storytelling technique in business is to establish the problem, the solution, and the benefits. You establish the world, you say this is the problem with the world, here's our solution to that problem, and here are the benefits to the world. And you can build that and you can still answer the questions through a storytelling structure. Now, one thing that's very, very clear at this stage is that you're going to need to have evidence and artistic persuasion. So whatever you do, make sure you show the evidence in the story as well as a great way of telling the story. Remember, we want them to fall in love with the story and the storyteller. Another great storytelling technique is past, present, and future. Just imagine doing your talk and talking about the world before your emerging technology, the world now and how it's going to be impacted by your technology, and the world in the future. Actually say to the audience, just imagine a world now where this is now possible, where this is changed, where this condition is now dealt with. Okay, so you imagine past, present, future. It's a really, really lovely storytelling technique. Another technique you might like to include is what's called the hero story, where you establish the world of conflict, where things are not working, where there is some kind of problem or challenge. The hero is either your team or your idea that are going to come in and they are going to deal with this conflict. Okay? There may well be a mentor or an institution that helps you to understand how you partner to be able to deal with this challenge. And there will be a battle. There will be a battle with the competition, with the possibilities of this technology actually working. There'll be a battle, and hopefully your heroic idea will come out. So how can you do that? You wrap this story around making sure that you answer those key questions. The key questions don't have to be obvious. You have to say, now I want to talk about the competition. What you talk about is how you are going to win that battle, and maybe that can be the incredible part of your pitch. Another idea that is quite popular in pitches is to think about telling the story through the eyes of one person. Now, this one person could be a person who would be absolutely fundamentally supported by your technology. It could be a real person. You could give an example, okay, of somebody who has a condition that somehow would be improved by your technology, or you could actually have an archetypal person, an example, and that person, the story of that person can be followed through and how their lives will be truly impacted positively by your technology. But whatever else you do, tell your story. Yeah? Bring it to life. Okay. So we've talked about the core content, we've talked about the story. Let's just, a couple of other things that I think are quite interesting. One is the start. How do you start? I started this video with 420 seconds. I didn't do a big long introduction. I went straight into something. It's quite nice to leap straight into the idea. You've got control of the room, you've got control of the technology, and you leap into the idea. Okay? It could be a quote to inspire. It could be an absolute clear stated objective of why you are here today. It could be a figure or a number, as I used, or it could be a start of an anecdote or a story which will then ultimately follow through as a thread throughout your whole presentation. So just grip hold of the start, but remember, very, very early on in your presentation, you need to tell us absolutely what your idea is and what does it do, what is it for. Okay, and if you can find a really great hook at the beginning to get us inspired, great. Okay, but get very quickly to the core of the matter. Okay, we know the middle. We know the middle is going to be the magic. So we've got our start, our middle, and our end. We know in the middle there's going to be a moment that very clearly is magical. And then our endings. Well, what is your ending going to be? Don't let it just drizzle or dribble away at the end. Have we finished? Yes, oh, we maybe have. Okay, thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here. Stay in control all the way through. If you've had a strong start, maybe you need to echo that at the end. Okay, if you had a number, maybe you need to come back to it. If you've mentioned a person, maybe you need to come back to them. Maybe it's a very clear call to action, or maybe it's a very clear challenge to yourselves or to the audience, but make it absolutely definite that you have finished your talk. Okay, so let's finish off my talk with a few kind of top tips. The first thing is, particularly if you're working with a team, is rehearse. Okay, make sure you rehearse your idea. All right, go through your slides and make sure you hear each other, maybe in front of other people, can give you feedback on your talk. The second thing is time it. 420 seconds, that's all you've got. Make sure you don't find yourself in a situation you're going to run out of time and have to rush through slides. Oh, missed that slide, missed that slide. No, make sure that does not happen. Okay, absolutely make sure you do not run out of time. Number 3, it's not really a top tip, I think it's just this: be memorable. Whether it's something practical that you do, something imaginative that you do, be memorable for all the right reasons. Okay, the way that you move, the way that you sound, the way that you look, the passion, the value, be memorable. You need to stand out. It's a competition and you want to stand out with the best idea and the most passionate way of telling that idea through your story. I suppose it's very obvious, but you need to be very clear and very present when you are talking. Calm like the pilot and present. It's really, really important that all the noise, all the distractions are taken away and that everybody is focused on you. Okay. I suppose the other really top tip is to be yourself. Do not try and be an actor, but do think, how can I be the best of myself as the pilot, as the rebel, but with myself? Yeah, being really secure and present in the way that I am presenting myself. Be a team, okay? Be a team. Show your strengths, show your comradeship, show how you work together. Be a really great team. The last 2 things are: be credible. Be really clear on the evidence. Show us through your slides, through your storytelling, the absolute credibility of your idea. Show us the evidence of why your idea is so great. And obviously, be incredible. Be memorable and dynamic, because that's what you will ultimately stand out with, by being incredible. And my final thought in all of these things is know your audience. Okay, know who you're talking to. Make sure you understand the value of how to get them to really, truly believe in you. And if you can do that, and if you can tell your story and get them to fall in love with the story and the storyteller, you will be both credible and incredible. Thank you.